Okay. So, yeah, I'm stitching a Ninja Turtle. He's coming together. But I had someone message me, and I don't think it came off snarky, but I don't think it meant to be snarky. And they just asked, why do you defend the emo era so much? Well, I'll tell you. So, the emo era is, I mean, that was a decade, kind of like disco era, Edwardian era. That's that's what was happening. It was the decade. And I mean, you look back at the early 2000s and that was it. It was emo took over. And um so the reason that I defend emo so much isn't so much because of the fashion and the hair and all of that. That was the last era music was anywhere. The garage bands, we don't have that anymore. People are more intent on being keyboard bullies. I can't go online without there being an explosion of political nonsense. I mean, I can't say happy birthday to someone without them yelling at me. I don't care about politics because it just makes people upset. If it's gonna piss you off that much, I don't want anything to do with it. I mean, yeah, politics are important to know. I get that and I know it. But this is messed up, you know? And I have people screaming and jumping down my throat about political parties, and it's like, all I did was say, have a nice day. Oh my gosh. So, and during the emo era, that didn't happen. During the 80s, that didn't happen. It was like people were upset because of the election, but they got over it within 2 weeks. This, it's like, you know, well, I'm not gonna get into it. The fact of the matter is that there were garage bands everywhere. Music took over, and it was delightful. It was wonderful. My gosh. I gotta tell you something. I'm gonna put him down. Because when YouTube first opened up in 2005, there were all kinds of, I mean, the explosion that was really going on was people were opening up their accounts. And on MySpace, it was already taken over by musicians and everything else. Well, people would come over and basically they were in their room covering like Green Day and AFI and My Chemical Romance and Fall Out Boy and Evanescence and everything else. So they were sitting in their room with their little camera phone, or their camera. Oh yeah, back in those days, you'd have your phone set up and you'd record yourself, and then you'd take the card out and you would put it in your device. Oh, those were the days. It's funny how far we've advanced, or not. Sometimes I feel like we've gone backwards with some of the things that we've. Because I look back on how we did things, like even when I was in high school, and it's like, have we really moved forward? I don't think so. But anyway, yeah, there were tons of accounts. There were tons of people they were just sitting in, and So they were recording, and so when I see a lot of these people who they have all the fancy equipment and everything, I'm like, this is not new. However, Jonathan Young, I absolutely love watching him. Yeah, he's the exception. But, I mean, so there are a few people that, yeah, I would watch for days, and he's one of them because he's so creative in what he does. But it had to start with these kids who would sit in their room and basically they were just covering these songs that we listened to all the time. Shoot, I would go to, oh, I miss this so much. I absolutely miss it. And you don't see it anymore. I mean, I follow somebody on Instagram and Twitter, and he's trying to fight to keep music in schools. Why do we have to fight to keep music in schools? See, that wasn't a thing during the emo era because of the fact that so many people were so consumed with music that they wanted to learn music. Because they wanted to be like they wanted to be like Jay Puget. They wanted to be like Billy Joe. They wanted to be like Frank Iero and Jimmy Sullivan. And so, yeah. But now it's like music, take it out of the curriculum. Why? Why are we why are you like this? Cuz oh, I mean, it devastates me that classic music, like the orchestra is gone. And cuz we used to have this whole thing where orchestra dorchestra and then the band. I don't remember what we used to call the band. But yeah, we would have rivalries and stuff like that. But it's not there anymore. And of course, there were garage bands all the time in the 90s when I was in high school. But, and then of course, when uh, My Chemical Romance had I'm Not Okay, and you saw them in the garage. They're not the first ones to have a video where kids are in a garage band. But, of course, because they did that, a lot of kids wanted to be in a garage band. So, it just revived that. And so there were a lot of kids who were doing a garage band. And I gotta tell you something, here, now in the 90s, the music scene sucked. It was really bad. But in the 2000s, it was actually, it was really good. And I'd go all the time. Down in the venue, it was great. I went all the time. It was my social scene. And down on Commerce, there's a lot of, down on that strip, there's apartment buildings. And so you see a lot of little kids. And we would sneak in the little kids. Because, I mean, they're like 9, 10 years old. And so we were like emo scene punk kids. And we would stand out there and wait for the guys to set up, and a lot of times they would come out, the guitarists especially, the guitarists would come out and they were flirting with us. And well, the scene girls, of course, they're pretty looking girls, and with their colored hair, their bright colored anime hair and everything. And I can say that I was friends with a lot of them. But so he's out there, and a lot of these guitarists, they're out there, and the bassists are out there, and they're like showing off what they can do. I had one guy, and he was always coming up to me, and he was like right behind me. He one time strapped his guitar on me. I'm like, I didn't ask for this. And you could smell the alcohol and marijuana on him. Oh my gosh. And he's like, and then you play like this, and I'm like, I'm not asking for this. But at the same time, if he didn't smell so bad, I probably would have enjoyed it. Again, though, he was known for his one night stands, so I'm sure that that's what he was hoping for, and he wasn't going to get it. But, I mean, that was the thing, is that a lot of times those guys would come out and they would play and show us how show us how it was done, because we didn't know what we were doing. We always, and some of those girls would act like they didn't know, some of them didn't, and so it wasn't really an act. But it was just pure fun, because we wanted to be like these guys. It wasn't so much that we were like cosplaying, because there were a lot, on MySpace where people had Halloween costumes like Billy Joe and them. But yeah, half of my wardrobe is music videos or the movies that I watch. But um again, we were learning these instruments and going to these concerts, and it was great, and the kids were learning too. Yeah, we snuck those kids in. But they were learning too, and some of us would bring in our instruments too. One of them that we were learning was the rev, and it's too bad that he's gone. But yeah, we wanted to learn his technique, because Bob Breyer from My Chemical Romance, he was pretty easy. I mean, I remember sitting, because I have drumsticks. And I would sit by my player and I would learn the technique. I learned Trey Cool. Trey Cool was kind of hard to learn. But I learned his technique. I learned Bob Breyer's technique. I learned Shannon Leto's technique. And just by sitting and tapping out and listening to the songs. And, but that's what we did. And the kids learned it too, because we snuck them in. I'm telling you, the local scene here was amazing back then. In the 90s, it was terrible. But in the emo era, it was great. And when we would go over there, we would talk about the latest songs and everything. We're like, oh, did you hear the latest single from this band? Yes. Yes, we did. And we would, you know, we would actually challenge those guys. We would be like, can you play this? And he'd be, and it would turn into a thing. There would be times that they'd be over there and they'd be setting up and we'd be like, well, can you play this song and can you play that song? And then they'd forget about the actual performance. The guys that were there, what they were doing, they were trying to play stuff. And there was one guy that could actually play as good as Jade Puget, and which is not easy because he's amazing. So, but yeah, nowadays it's like there are no garage bands. You guys are stuck on your devices. And I mean, maybe there are somewhere else, but I mean, I miss going to the venue. I miss doing all of that stuff. Oh, it was so much fun. And taking the I would take my drumsticks and be tapping out stuff, and sometimes they would take me behind the drums and play and everything, and I wasn't good, but at least I attempted. And then I have my grandpa's guitar, and yeah, just even taking the kids in there, and it was during the summer that we would, because the kids usually weren't able to stay, so we wouldn't let them come in. But yeah, bunch of emo and scene punk kids. I miss it a lot, and that's one of the reasons why I defend the emo era so much, is because we were doing that kind of stuff. It was music explosion. And the songs, you can enjoy the songs. I'm glad you guys enjoy the songs and everything, but I feel like you enjoy them for the wrong reasons. You enjoy them because it's trendy. Well, that's fine and everything. But do you really enjoy them? So anyway, yeah, I wish that the garage band idea never ended, because it has been a thing since probably even the 50s and 40s and 50s, and it just disappeared. Why? Come on, guys. Let's go back to that. But anyway, yeah, and the fact that they don't teach music anymore in schools, I don't even know if they do here. I mean, when I was during, I think it was like 2006, the music teacher I had was sadly killed in a car accident, and so it was like they had orchestra for a little while, and then it was like they just kind of quit. They decided it was no longer part of the curriculum. It's like, that there are other people that can teach orchestra. It really is not that hard. But they decided to just drop it. And it's like, and the problem around here is that you have to have all these PhDs and you have to have bachelors and everything to teach. And it's like, for music? Really? Oh my gosh. So anyway, yeah, I really miss going to the venue. I miss listening to all those artists and everything, and having those can you play this song? Can you play that song? And yeah, I'm and one of the things that really bugs me about your emo tutorials is that you don't mention all of the bands. And Falling in Reverse was a little bit later. I enjoy Falling in Reverse. I never liked Black Veil Brides. I thought that they were a knockoff of all these other different bands. I thought they were trying too hard. But I'm sure that they matured later. But when they first started, it was like everything about them just. But there were so many other different bands that that we listened to, not just My Chemical Romance and Green Day. I know Green Day's punk, but there was a huge fight I saw online where it was like somebody mentioned that Green Day was emo, and it was like, no, they're punk and they've always been punk. Yeah, they've always been punk, but the emo kids latched onto them, and it's because of what the message that American Idiot has. So that's all it is. So yeah, I stand by the emo era, and that's why I defend it so much, is because it's basically the last time we saw such a huge music scene. And I think one of the other things is, Evanescence, Amy Lee is fantastic. She's amazing. And there was a gal here that when we had the music scene here, she had a beautiful voice. And she would cover a lot of the Evanescence songs. She's not quite to the caliber. I wonder what happened to her because she moved away. But we always enjoyed coming whenever we found out, because she didn't sing every time. But whenever we found out that she was going to sing, we all came. We're like, oh my gosh, we were such fan kids for her. We're like, shh, she's singing. She was really good. And I really hope she's doing well. But yeah, so and that was the thing, is just stuff like that. And I remember going to Warped Tour. Warped Tour was amazing back then. I'm seeing it and it's kind of crap now. And it's not so much the bands, it's just the way that, I don't know, it's like they just kind of gave up. I don't know. Cuz I I saw My Chemical Romance way back. I'm like, is that Gerard? Is it Frank? I don't know. So, but anyway, yeah, I do defend the emo era, but mainly it has to do with the music scene. There isn't one now. And shame on the school system for not keeping music alive. Because why don't you want to teach music to the kids? In the emo era, you almost didn't have to teach them anything. Because you had these big bands who were doing it for you. So, yeah, it is too bad. It's too bad that that's going on, but yeah. So, that's what I have to say.